My apologies, Madam President. Madam President, I come to the floor to talk about the vote that we're about to move to here shortly. It sounds like motherhood and apple pie, the Social Security Fairness Act. Who could be against Social Security fairness? The fact of the matter is the policy does address a challenge with Social Security for a single-digit percentage of people who have a pension, a government pension program, and they're not necessarily getting exactly what they should back. So it is something we need to fix. But this is not the way to fix it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 10 years away from most economists' consensus believing that the Social Security Trust Fund is going to reach insolvency. 10 years. 10 years away. This bill will take $200 billion over that 10-year period out of the Social Security Trust Fund without any offsetting payment to it. So that is to right a wrong for a small percentage of people that should get fairly treated. They're going to raid $200 billion with a B over 10 years to pay for this. That pulls insolvency forward by 6 months. Now, 6 months doesn't sound like a lot if you're talking, years and years and years into the future, but we're estimated to be reaching insolvency within the next 9 to 10 years. Suddenly, 6 months becomes a pretty significant amount of time. So we're bowing to, we have people here who have voted against bills before because they say, I don't like the idea of something not going through regular order, getting dumped on us at the last minute and voting on it. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill has not even had a hearing in any committee in the House or the Senate. It got sent to us through a procedure called a discharge petition, which means that they've discharged their duty of doing regular order, sent it to us, and now we're about to take a vote today without having voted on it. Now, I know there are a lot of people that say Thom Tillis must be committing political suicide because how could you be against Social Security fairness? People asked me the same question when I was against the PACT Act that my office helped author. The PACT Act was a veterans bill, a $1 trillion bill that we had a commitment to take through regular order to get it right before we passed it. And I talked to veterans groups who were concerned with my lack of support for a bill that I helped author. And I said, it's because I think you're going to regret it by us not thinking through the implications. I said, it wouldn't surprise me if 2 years from now, you're going to see and realize the very challenges that I told you about. But they said, you know what, we think it'll work itself out. Well, you know what happened almost 2 years to the month? We're $3 billion in the hole for the current year veterans budget and $15 billion in the hole going forward because we didn't do our homework. We caved to the pressure of the moment instead of doing this on a sustainable basis. Now, I don't know how many people are going to oppose the bill today. It is likely to move through. But to those of you who are looking past the regular order and fixing the things that I know are not fixed in this bill, own it when we have to come back and fix it. I will come back and fix it. I will help with Social Security reform, but know that you're making the job harder to fix a trust fund that is within 10 years of going insolvent. It would be easy for me to talk to my friends at the Fraternal Order of Police and say, yeah, we're going to get this done. And by God, I hope somebody over the next 8 to 10 years fixes Social Security in the future, because in 10 years, there will be a mandatory 17 minimum. 17% cut in the Social Security benefit across the board if we continue to fail to act here and if we continue to dig a deeper hole by the vote that we're having today. So to those of you who need this fix, who need to be treated fairly, count me in. But understand the folks that are rushing this vote today are hastening today where they're probably going to break the promise for 97% more people on Social Security who do not benefit from this bill. Look, I'm in an election cycle. A lot of people may think that I am committing political suicide by doing this, but this chamber needs courage and needs to say what needs to be said. We are about to pass an unfunded $200 billion spending package for a trust fund that is likely to go insolvent over the next 9 to 10 years, and we're going to pretend like somebody else has to fix it. Well, when you're a U.S. Senator and you got the election certificate, that falls on us. Now I want to finish with this. There is nobody in this chamber I hate to be in disagreement more than the senior senator from Maine. Senator Collins understands that we do need to fix this, and her sense of fairness and her expertise is unmatched in this chamber. We do not disagree with what we ultimately need to do. This is a disagreement in how to get there and how to have something that addresses the downstream risk. So it is with some trepidation that I come to the floor and criticize the good work of Senator Collins, but I do it because there's so much riding on us getting this right and having the courage to fix Social Security over the next few years, folks, or record this speech. We will rue the day that we failed to do it. Thank you, Madam President.
President.
Senator from Maine.
Madam President, let me just briefly say that I have great admiration for the senator from North Carolina. This is a rare instance in which we see the issue differently, but I appreciate his leadership and hard work. Madam President, I rise today in strong support of the long overdue Social Security Fairness Act. This bipartisan bill would repeal 2 Social Security provisions that unfairly penalize many public servants in Maine and across the country. I also want to acknowledge and thank Senator Brown for his leadership. We have championed this bill together for several years. In fact, Madam President, we've been debating this inequity in the Social Security system for decades. In 2003, I held the very first Senate hearing on this policy. In 2005, the late Senator Dianne Feinstein and I introduced the first Social Security Fairness Act. In 2007, Senator Barbara Mikulski and I introduced another version of the bill. And just last month, the House of Representatives passed the bill overwhelmingly by a vote of 327 to 75. It is now time for the Senate to finally pass this legislation so that it can become law. Social Security is the foundation of retirement income for most Americans. Yet many teachers, firefighters, police officers, and other public servants often see their earned Social Security benefits unfairly reduced by 2 provisions, the so-called windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. The windfall elimination provision, or WEP, affects public servants who receive a pension from a job not covered by Social Security, but who also worked long enough in another job to qualify for Social Security benefits. In other words, they have earned those benefits. They've worked the 40 quarters, the 10 years, under a job that pays into Social Security. Due to the WEP, however, their Social Security benefits are calculated using a different formula, which reduces their monthly benefits. For workers who become eligible for benefits in 2024, The WEP reduction can be up to $700 per month. The government pension offset, or GPO, affects public servants who receive a pension from a job not covered by Social Security, but who are also eligible to receive a Social Security spousal or widow's benefit. The GPO, however, reduces the Social Security spousal or widow's benefits by an amount equal to 2/3 of the non-covered pension. More than 70% of those affected by the GPO lose their entire benefit. Madam President, this issue is extraordinarily important to people in my state of Maine because the state's pension system does not include a Social Security component. And among those most affected are Maine school teachers. They love their jobs and the children they teach, but they have to worry about their future and their retirement security. Many are women, often retired from teaching, whose spouses worked full-time in the private sector. But when they become widowed, their retirement security is often jeopardized because they don't receive the standard amount from their late spouse's Social Security. Madam President, the fact is that 83% of retirees penalized by the GPO provision are women. According to the Social Security Administration, in November of 2024, more than 2 million people, including more than 20,000 in Maine, had their Social Security benefits reduced by the WEP. Similarly, more than 650,000 people were affected by the GPO in November of 2024, including more than 6,000 in Maine. Let me give you one example. There are so many. Catherine Sogren from Bangor, Maine, told me about having to re-enter the workforce at age 72 after retiring from teaching for many decades. Her husband, a Navy veteran, paid into Social Security for 40 years. When he passed away, the GPO reduced Catherine's widow benefits by 2/3. She did not have the financial security any longer to remain retired. And the GPO penalty left her with few choices but to return to work. Madam President, our dedicated public servants, such as our teachers who help prepare our children for the future success, our police officers and firefighters who help keep our communities safe, should receive the full Social Security benefits that they have earned. And let me stress that last point. They have earned these benefits. This is an unfair, inequitable penalty. I urge my colleagues to support the Social Security Fairness Act and end this inequity once and for all. Thank you, Madam President.
President.
Senator from Louisiana.
I ask unanimous consent that I be permitted to speak up to 10 minutes and Senator Brown permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes prior to the scheduled vote.
Without objection.
Madam President, when Washington, when we in Congress, when the President makes a promise to the American people, people expect us to fulfill it. Today, the Senate has an opportunity to live up to a promise. Millions of teachers, firefighters, police officers. I worked in a public hospital for the uninsured. I would add nurses, technicians, lab techs, janitors. They expect us to fulfill this promise, and they are watching today. They're watching filled with hope that the Senate will pass the Social Security Fairness Act to finally stop punishing them for having elected to serve our communities. We can fix a broken system that has unfairly harmed them for almost 30 years. We can finally deliver relief this Christmas for millions of Americans after years of nothing but empty promises. The Social Security Fairness Act has passed the House and has overwhelming bipartisan support in the Senate. With 62 co-sponsors, it should not be even a question if we have the support to move forward today. Not too long ago, I met with a retired Louisiana school teacher impacted by GPO. She cried in my office, not understanding why she was getting less in Social Security spousal benefits than if she had never worked at all. Think about this. She had her quarters. She had worked, say, 20 years in the private sector. She was getting less from spousal benefits than if she had never worked at all. She felt like she was being punished for educating generations of Louisiana children, and she was being punished. There's no excuse to treat our public servants this way. So to my colleagues who are concerned about the price tag, I hear you. The good news, I have a plan that helps address these concerns. I have a comprehensive Social Security plan that addresses both the insolvency in 9 years and including paying for this repeal of weapon GPO. If you want to talk about it, I've been promoting this for 4 years. By the way, it does not increase the full retirement age. People can still retire at the age at which they plan to retire. By the way, it checks boxes that President Trump, during his campaign speech, campaigning, said that he would like to do in order to benefit social and to benefit our nation. It checks that box too. So if you're concerned about the price tag, please talk to me about how we can afford to do right by the public servants who are being penalized by weapon GPO, but also help our nation financially. We can do both if we have the courage to do both. But at the very least today, we can keep a promise to make Social Security fair again. I want to thank all the advocates for their work in getting here, including the Louisiana Sheriff's Association, Louisiana Chiefs of Police Association, the Louisiana State Employees Retirement System, the Louisiana Police Jury Association, the Louisiana Municipal Association, the International Association of Firefighters, the National Fraternal Order of Police, and all others who have contributed so much to this effort. I also want to thank President Trump, who has publicly announced his support for this bill. It is a sacred trust between the American people and our government. President Trump, President-elect Trump, soon-to-be President Trump, recognizes this. As long as I am here, I will fight to keep the promises that we make to the American people. With that, I yield to my good friend, Senator Brown.
Thank you, Senator Cassidy. And I thank Senator Cassidy and his incredible staff for the work that they've done with the Cleveland connection. And I just appreciate so much as I leave the Senate the work that Senator Cassidy and I have done on a whole host of bills, and I would say the same about my work with Senator Collins. She's been at this. I've been at this bill for a long time. She's been at this bill for now more than 2 decades. And I know from our pension bill, I know from the child tax credit, I know from the PACT Act, I know from a whole lot of issues that this stuff takes time, but 21 years is ridiculous. And we need to move forward in this, and I so appreciate she kept this alive. Madam President, I ask unanimous consent that following my remarks, Senator Schumer be permitted to speak for 2 minutes prior to the scheduled vote.
Without objection.
Thank you, and I will be brief. Social Security, we know, is a bulwark, bedrock of our middle class. It's retirement security that Americans pay into and earn over a lifetime. You pay in for 40 quarters. You pay in for essentially 10 years. You've earned it. It should be there when you retire. These restrictions right now, though, prevent some 3 million Americans, nearly 250,000 people in my state alone, many of whom are law enforcement, first responders, teachers, school bus drivers, school cafeteria workers, public servants. It means that many will not get their full Social Security benefit. It makes no sense. These workers serve the public, they protect our communities, they teach our kids, they pay into Social Security just like everyone else. I think about when we did a hearing a few months ago at a fire station in Columbus. I met Barbara Ward. She drives a special needs bus for Fairland local schools I believe in Gallia County on the Ohio River. She drives 200 miles a day She's done this for 40 years. She's in her 70s. Her mom was the first female bus driver hired in that district. Her husband served our country in the Navy Seabees, building our naval bases and paying into Social Security with every paycheck. After he passed away 10 years ago, Barb started receiving his Social Security survivor's benefits until Barb retired with her school pension when her Social Security benefit dropped from $2,100 a month to $500 a month. Again, he earned this. This wasn't charity. This isn't a giveaway. He earned that Social Security benefit, and she should have it. At our hearing, she said, it's just not fair. My husband worked for that. We worked for that. They earned that Social Security. They paid into it. Over and over, these Americans, like that bus driver, have watched corporations get tax cuts and Wall Street gets bailouts. All these workers are asking for is what they have earned. It's an issue that has a huge impact on a worker's life, but it doesn't get enough attention in Washington. Again, I thank Senator Collins for keeping this alive for so long. The people it affects aren't powerful corporate interests. They're cops, they're sheriff deputies, they're firefighters, they're teachers. They work at parks, they work at libraries, they pick up our trash, they plow our roads. They make our lives livable and better. We must finally get this done. The House passed it with 327 votes. They don't agree on much in the House, period, but members of both parties came together and agreed. I believe every single Ohio member of Congress voted for this. We need to restore those workers' Social Security. Yesterday, in front of about 50 of my colleagues, I gave what some called my last speech on the Senate floor. I ended by saying it would not be the last time you heard from me. Of course it wouldn't be. I'm back today fighting for the dignity of work. It's the way I began my career in the Senate. It's what I'll continue to do, whether in the Senate or not. Whether it's restoring workers' Social Security or saving workers' pensions or fighting for overtime pay or supporting unions, so much of what I fought for in the Senate has one thing in common. It's about hard work paying off. It's about what workers earn. It's about honoring the dignity of work. If you love this country, you fight for the people who make it work. I urge all my colleagues on both sides to join us. Restore the Social Security that people who protect us in service have earned over a lifetime of work. Senator Schumer.
President.
The Majority Leader.
Now, Madam President, in just a few moments, the Senate will hold a vote to take up the Social Security Fairness Act, a bill that ensures no retiree or spouse is wrongly denied their well-earned benefits simply because they chose at some point in their careers to work in public service. Time is short, but I'm hopeful the Senate can take up and pass this bill and send it to the President's desk very quickly. Passing this Social Security fix right before Christmas would be a great gift for our retired firefighters, police officers, postal workers, teachers, and others who for years have contributed to Social Security but are now being penalized because of their time of public service. That is unfair. It's deeply unfair. It goes against the American ideal of working hard, chipping in, and enjoying a well-earned retirement. Our bill would finally repeal the outdated and unfair WEP and GPO programs which have wreaked havoc on the hard-earned benefits of our public service retirees and their spouses. It's been going on too long. People have worked for decades to pass legislation to fix this issue. We now have that opportunity. The House has already passed this bill by an overwhelming margin, Democrats and Republicans, 327-75. We Democrats are ready to stand with our public service retirees and finally fix this problem. The American people will see today which senators are ready to deliver on these Social Security benefits and who will block this golden opportunity that could help millions. I thank Senator Brown and others for their hard work. Yield the floor and ask for the yeas and no. Yield the floor.
The clerk will report the motion to invoke cloture.
Cloture motion. We, the undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22, the standing rules of the Senate, do hereby move to bring to a close the debate on the motion to proceed to calendar number 693, H.R. 82, an act to amend Title II of the Social Security Act to repeal the government pension offset windfall elimination provision signed by 18 senators.
By unanimous consent, the mandatory quorum call has been waived. The question is it the sense of the Senate that debate on the motion to proceed to H.R. 82, an act to amend Title II of the Social Security Act to repeal the government pension offset and windfall elimination provisions shall be brought to a close? The yeas and nays are mandatory under